Bottas, coming first, second and third in the 21 F1, might be familiar with the Portuguese Adamaster. This is another up-to-date attempt at a low-production supercar. It's something that's wanting to be taken seriously. The Vico is a gull-wing, 2 wheels at the front, trike. But the Vico is definitely a stylish racing model 3-wheel vehicle. Its other cottage industry contemporaries are much more like beach buggies or fun little kit car all-terrain vehicles that really do look like they should have a hang glider wing above them. Sorry for that insalubrious tour of where Portuguese cars are and where Iberian motor vehicle production will be going, surely. But there it is. As what is the Iberian and Portuguese vehicle industry? Portugal exports trucks. Spain is no longer going to be making Seat cars. Seat, owned by Volkswagen, were hit hard by the diesel emissions. Dieselgate, that meant 700,000 cars had to be recalled. This is just with Seat models. You tend to think there has to be a grassroots interest, but Portugal and cars, Portugal and motorsport, it's never really been a thing. Tondela, small town or village between Aveiro and Viseu, toward Porto, has the Museum do Caramulo, which, with only slight exaggeration, has every single Portuguese car ever made in it. Portuguese cars have always been a bespoke, one-off hobby in the back garage type of business. Now a little bit like kit cars, but previously and currently supercar, racing car type aspirations, but no real drivers that you'd have ever heard of, apart from some in the 1950s that perhaps got one race, pushed for by a dictator's pride. Those few unique Portuguese cars are often quite lightweight things. The Alba, of which there was a small handful made in Aveiro for 2 years. In the 1930s, 90 horsepower, creating a top speed of 200 kilometres an hour, was no mean feat. The Alda was a sports car, a bit like a wider E-Type Jag. It competed in races against Sterling Moss, who won a few of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Other Portuguese Grand Prix Formula 1 winners, Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, and most recently Lewis Hamilton during COVID. 2021, Formula 1 couldn't go global, so it returned to lots of rather outlandish previous countries, if not same locations. Portimao on the Algarve was 2021, 1964 to 1996. Estoril, along the coast slightly from Lisbon, was the city host for the circuit. Earlier circuits than that included Boa Vista in Porto in the north and Monsanto. Now this threw me a little bit. Turns out Monsanto is a park near Lisbon, outside Lisbon. Monaco, Monte Carlo is the only street circuit left, but Boa Vista and Monsanto. Monsanto is actually a name of a hill town full of boulders where people build slum-like housing underneath and between the boulders. How on earth can you have a Formula 1 race on a hill that you can only hike to? But it's nearby on the plain, I thought. No, it's just a name. naming a park in your capital city, the name of a town, a border town, helps keep that border town part of your country. I'm not going to let myself take a tangent off from the cars though. Sado. Now, Sado had a bit of a run in the 1970s, 1980s. I think there was more than 50 of them made. It was about €1,300 to buy at a time when a Mini was about £800. The Sado, 28 horsepower and could reach 110 kilometres an hour, but incredibly ugly car, really. It's a little city car-like thing, a bit like a smart car, but all bonnet. Almost L-shaped looking with its vertical windscreen. Sorry, it was the Felcom that was built in 1933, with a mix of Ford A and Turcat Mary parts, and it could reach 160 kilometres an hour. The AGB IPA of 1958 definitely wasn't like a Ford production line. There were 5 units built, and you could get it in either 2 or 4-seat versions, so very few and far between. They are museum pieces. You're not going to see them on the road. Hamilton, Verstappen.
Does not exist.
To an English or a German person, cars seem expensive in France. To a French person, cars seem expensive in Portugal. There's a big, long tradition of a lot of immigration from Portugal into France. There's a lot of French business opening up in Portugal now. Well, for some time. To an English person moving to Portugal, a car just seems mentally expensive. To most Portuguese people, a car is the price of a rural house that they want to get away from. You can sell your family house that's been in the family for generations and buy a car and move to the coast. Move to the coast and use public transport. Well, car drivers in Portugal are amongst the wealthiest of the population, shall we say. I wonder if that's coincidental with the experience of driving in Portugal. Portuguese drivers are different to the rest of the population. Incredibly impatient and eager to criticise. They are up the backside of your car. As you park, they're inching forward and giving you enough space if your parking is inch perfect to their perception, which isn't perfect, and they go too far. They want to be that inch further ahead in their life, and they make it worse for themselves because they don't give you enough space. Edging forward, trying to take more, and it messes them up. They will not cooperate. They have their ground, and they don't know where reverse gear is, you would think. You find this over and over and over again. Selfishness in cutting you up seems like it's trying to provoke something. Squeezing through necessitates you bow to their wants. I think it's that Iberian hierarchy thing in what is on display. But Portuguese nation, we're moving from the country to the coast, suburban agglomeration that it is, and we're able to use public transport. Then the privileged that do have cars don't have any cause to go to the borderlands with Spain. So much of rural Portugal is heading towards rewilding. Fairly low amp solar power projects aren't going to help all that much. They need to be close to where the power is being used. Hydrogen out of the atmosphere. Portugal can be seen as an oppressed colony, shared between a few different nations, often France, on the periphery of Europe. Taxation of luxuries is helping it cope at the moment. It hasn't got any more gold to balance its imports and exports. Portugal plays heavily on the fact that Brazil, a huge market, is Portuguese speaking, but what's that going to do for the rainforests if all these countries see Portugal as a stepping stone? Portuguese Formula 1 Grand Prix passed over for the Brazil spectacle. Peugeot is the most popular mainstream vehicle. Trucks are what Portugal exports. And population still.